Welcome everybody to the Three Esoterics podcast, and it's at Three Esoterics, Esoterics. It's at Three Esoterics. Ben, it's funny. I've never, for some reason, I get a little mixed up with the word that I came up with.
So, what do you want to say? You want to say the Three Exotics, don't you? Because I cannot think of a group of more exotic gentlemen.
AKA three guys headed to a Rush concert. Right. But we were thinking about this idea the other day. It was actually your logic that helped this idea of movies not being forgotten, because when we were younger, all three of us, unnamed producer, also because she didn't have money financially to afford cable. I'm from Brooklyn. We didn't have cable until I was like 13. So we were all raised with 4 channels. So every Sunday morning or Saturday morning for some of you guys, and Sunday morning, or at night, you'd have these old classics on. So when we were younger, we got to see some of the great classics that, to your point, because there's so much streaming, there's people just aren't probably watching them as much.
That's right. I think that, yeah. So I was thinking in particular of Saturday afternoons watching KTLA in Los Angeles, Channel 5. What was it called? It was called the Family Movie something. Tom Hatton, I think, was the host, and most of those were films from the 50s and 60s, and then NBC used to have movie of the week, like a movie of the week, I think, and I remember like watching Earthquake and some of these
and the airport movies,
yeah. All those disaster films.
Lewis and I had WPIX and
Channel 11.
Channel 11, which was WPIX.
Big Apple movie on Channel 5, I believe.
Yeah, Channel 5, right after, and then Channel 9. So we had like 3 channels, and then producer girlfriend had WGN. This is very exciting, but I also want to get into. It's just important. Like, I think movies, because I don't think millennials are turning into TCM. I don't think Turner Classic Movies caters to anybody under the age of 65.
They're watching whatever the latest, greatest on Netflix happens to be.
That's exactly right. And music is different because a musician could cover a song. But if you ever notice, whenever you watch, what's that Seinfeld show in the car? With the comedians.
Comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yeah, they're constantly talking about other comedians, but they're never talking about movies those comedians were in. They're never talking about saying, oh my God, Rodney Dangerfield in one of the classic comedies in Back to School. They never bring up the work those people did other than their stage stuff.
That show is really about the how of comedy, though, I think.
Well, Seinfeld did bring up film and comedy with regard to Jerry Lewis and the bellboy, or bellhop.
Yeah.
Asked him, what's the deal with the jewelry? Because Jerry Lewis didn't take off any of his personal jewelry in playing the character, so you have a bellhop, with a $5,000 gold bracelet.
It's pretty funny, actually.
Cartier.
And a funny movie that they played on Sunday mornings. I mean, most young people don't know who Lewis and Martin are. But anyways, let's get to the list. Because Ben thought of this idea, let's get to Ben's list first. And starting on Ben's list is The Taking of Pelham 123. This is the movie from the 70s.
Yes, not the horrible remake from 2009 with John Travolta as the bad guy, and
it had Denzel, didn't it?
Denzel Washington playing Walter Matthau's character from the original. What I love, there's a lot of things I love about.
So who played the bank? Who played the robbers again?
In the original?
It was
Robert Shaw was the leader.
And if people don't know who Robert Shaw is, he was from Jaws.
He was in Jaws.
Network. No, he wasn't in Network. What am I saying?
Yeah.
Martin Balsam.
Right.
Hector Elizondo. and Earl Hindman.
Who played the cop?
Walter Matthau was the hangdog detective, for the transit authority, and his partner was. Does anybody remember who his partner was?
No.
I can see his face in my mind. I can't remember his name.
Was it the guy that you Lewis and I were talking about yesterday, the one that's in everything, the guy from the Death Wish? We were talking about.
I'm pretty sure the partner was Jerry Stiller.
Oh.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And what's great about this, first of all, you had all these great character actors, and all of them are distinguished and all of them are wonderful. But the other thing about the original version of the movie is that movie it could never be made today. I mean, the remake is such a soul-sucking, just awful, just an abortion of a remake, and because first of all, the original is so politically incorrect. I mean, it is brutally politically incorrect. But then the other thing that makes the movie is the score. It has such a distinguished score. I remember I was kind of looking forward to the remake just to see what they did with the music. The score was by David Shire, who went on to do Saturday Night Fever.
Pretty awesome. He didn't he? I think he also was involved with Godfather and Rocky.
By the way, just so you know, for the record, I gave Mr. Esoteric some information yesterday that he did not know, and when you could do that with Lewis, you should always feel proud of yourself.
Yeah.
He brought up the name John Williams. I informed him that his sons were in Toto.
Well, I thought my exact words were, I thought that John Williams was a Fagala.
He means not straight, just like John Travolta. And by the way, getting to one of I saw that movie probably when I was 12, and I can't watch that movie again, The Taking of Pelham 123, because it's very similar. Walter Matthau was very akin to, and I would imagine he probably studied Edward G. Robinson for that part, because it was very akin to Double Indemnity. Like the onslaught of the investigation was the buildup was frightening if you saw that when you were younger.
But the ending is hilarious.
Yes, I didn't say
the bag of cash and the he's got and Balsam's sneeze or cough.
Yeah,
sneeze.
I mean, hey, what are you eating?
Gesundheit.
A protein cookie.
Okay, so let's get a bit. By the way, that's an actor that should never be forgotten. Two actors from that shouldn't be forgotten: Martin Balsam, Robert Shaw.
Yeah, and Walter Matthau, really.
Balsam
never be forgotten because his movies will be shown for years.
And Balsam was George Clooney's late father-in-law.
Yes.
Clooney's post-marriage.
But had they still been married, you're right, he wouldn't be forgotten. But since they're divorced, he's more easily forgotten. Let's go to Zulu.
Zulu, I picked another. I picked also because it could never be made.
I'll be honest, I've never seen Zulu.
Oh, it's great. So it's about the battle at Rorke's Drift. It came out in 1964. It features a very young Michael Caine. Michael Caine, when Michael Caine is, I can't remember, did I put him on my list or not? I mean, Michael Caine is immortal in his own way, but as I was going over some of these movies and people who were in them and looking at their run of films, Caine, I think his heyday was really from this movie Zulu in 1964 until about 1977. And then it got really.
What are you talking about? Michael Caine has been in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Yeah, but yes, okay, but
his two Oscars are for Hannah and Her Sisters, and
I know
Cider Abortion House Rules.
I'm taking the contrarian.
But no, I get what Ben's saying. Ben, this is like the U2 argument. Ben is saying he chooses the 80s U2 versus everything after, even though they have won Grammys for their stuff and their stuff has been in the top 10.
All that stuff that, well, and I've got another Kane movie on my list.
Okay, so let's go to Buddy Buddy, because I've never seen that either.
Well, I just want to say one more little thing about Zulu. Zulu you could never make today because it is about a small group,
slaughtering black people.
Yes, slaughtering a small group of British soldiers who are attacked by thousands upon thousands of Zulu warriors, and they survive. It's a survival movie, and
the pitch is, for those who are ignorant, if you're pitching it today, we have a band of white men killing a bunch of storming naked black men
with spears.
Blacks with spears, the white men with guns. White men win.
Yeah, but
sold.
Thank you.
I mean, that's, I know that, I mean, in this day and age, right? But it's a great film. It's a really great film.
I will watch Zulu. Okay, next up, Buddy Buddy, which I haven't seen either.
Another. So it is really only on my list for one reason. Which,
again, these are movies that you want people to see because you think they're good, they're important, but somehow they slip through the cracks of the Criterion collection of other things.
Yeah. It's actually it's a Billy Wilder movie from 1981, and it's about Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. It's not their greatest collaboration. They Grumpy Old Men I think may be better, but it's 1981. It's very much of its time, and Walter Matthau plays a kind of I guess what would he be? He would be like a hired gun, I think, and Lemmon is a witness in a trial, and it's madcap. And I remember seeing it when I was probably 10 or 11 years old.
Can I just read you a funny quote and be Lewis for a second? Because this was the last Billy Wilder movie that he did with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. He wrote, the film proved to be the last directed by Wilder, who in later years said, if I met my old pictures in a crowd personified, there are some that would make me happy and proud, and I would embrace them. But Buddy Buddy, I try to ignore.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not the greatest of, but it was one of those movies that, you see a movie when you're really young and tattoos on your brain, right?
100%.
And it also features a very young Ed Begley Jr.
He's right. Siskel and Ebert used to have that rule. It was like the Ned Beatty, Harry Dean Stanton rule. Like if they were in a movie, it could never be bad. And I think both of them broke that. But there's certain of us, like if Ed Begley Jr. is one of those guys. Usually, if he's in a movie, in a box office movie, it can never be bad.
Yeah.
Apropos of nothing, I just want to thank producer girlfriend, who will be known as henceforth producer girlfriend, for allowing you, Judah, to play stickball in the apartment the way you're dressed. I want to see that Spalding just ricochet into the room, because you look like a cross between like a cancerous Obi-Wan Kenobi via Brooklyn. Like if they couldn't get Alec Guinness, but they just found some Jewish guy in a hooded sweatshirt.
I'll take the compliment.
Yeah. What is this force? What am I talking about here? What do I say to this guy? Why is his name Luke? Is he Jewish? He's not Jewish. So where is he from?
Oh.
Do you even know where I'm from?
Yeah, I saw The Chosen and I read the book.
Robbie,
great baseball movie.
How come he's not in your book? How come he's not on your list? But let's get to his next movie, The Changeling.
Okay, so this here again, 1980. George C. Scott stars. He's a composer, and he's staying at this old mansion, and he finds himself he's being haunted. There's a presence in the attic, and what he comes to discover over the course of a slow moving film. There aren't jump scares in it. There aren't a lot of shocks in it. Only until the end, what he comes to discover is that he's being haunted by this child that was murdered in this house, and that that child was replaced by another child played by Melvin Douglas, who grew up to be this powerful United States senator and much.
They're one of the successful stories of child actors.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's right. That's very true.
Wasn't there a remake of The Changeling? Because
there was, but I'm not sure it. It came out a few years ago. I think
like after the
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, that's it. I think
after like the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, you stopped watching remakes of your favorite movies.
Yeah, there's just no way. There's no way you could do justice to this movie.
Who was the star? Was there any star of it, or just
George C. Scott?
George C. Scott
in the original, yeah, George C. Scott. And so, it's less than 2 hours. It's only an hour and 47 minutes, but it feels like 2.5 hours. But it's good. It's a good, slow moving, slow burn, kind of a thriller.
What's incredible to bring up a good point. What a lot of people don't. First of all, George C. Scott, one of the greatest actors of all time. But in Hollywood, what's funny is he's not immortalized that much, and he should be, because he was one of the few early actors really that fought the fight. That didn't he send Native Americans up on stage to accept his Oscar award?
Brando.
It's Brando.
Oh,
yeah.
Brando?
Yeah. They all look alike.
For The Godfather.
What did George C. Scott do? Didn't he do something for?
Yeah, what he did? He was pretty
protested something. I think it was winning patent or something. But now I feel like
his wife was, right?
Now I feel like Ben when he called Meet the Parents, the Royal Fox, the Royal Fox. So that was Brando. Thank you.
Tannenbaums.
He was the first actor to refuse his Academy Award for Best Actor for Patton.
Why did he refuse it? Does it give any reason, or
Vietnam?
He just didn't want to show up. So I had part of it correct. He didn't send up the Native Americans. He was just the first actor to refuse it, which is actually better than Brando, because at least George C. Scott really said, "I don't want it." I
don't think the woman who accepted it on Brando's behalf was even a Native American.
Oh, right. Yeah. Shasheen Littlefeather, whose real name was not Shasheen Littlefeather.
From the Butter Package.
Yeah.
Land O'Lakes.
Last movie, and not the remake, but the original, Get Carter.
Yeah. Although the remake with Sylvester Stallone isn't an abortion. It's not bad, but it's not great. And Get the original from 1971, starring Michael Caine as a gangster whose brother dies in an accident that maybe wasn't an accident. And so he goes to Newcastle to find out what happened, and a great many fisticuffs ensue. And then there's some gunplay, and it's delightful.
So you're a big Michael Caine fan, we take it?
I like Caine in the 60s and 70s, particularly in the late 60s, early 70s, when he was playing these kind of anti-hero types.
Yeah.
When he looked like an ashtray. Because he looks like an ashtray.
But
in the 70s, he's in one of my favorite films, which I should have put on the list because I got the criteria wrong.
What was the movie?
Criterion.
What movie?
California Suite.
Oh, I was gonna. You know what? I almost put that on my list. on my list.
We'll save that for the California Suite. But what's funny is, do you think you get attracted to an actor or an actress that you think has similar political views than you do, or
Irrelevant.
what?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Irrelevant.
You see, for me, actor-wise, as a kid, I always found myself, for people that know that I don't drink anymore, I always found myself looking up to actors on TV who all ended up being drunks. So subliminally, I think there was like this connection that I had to actors like Ken Wall or Jan Michael Vincent, like that there was some weird connection.
So no, I could see. I mean, that's a difficult connection to make between addiction and Hollywood. So you probably had a poverty of films to choose from.
I don't think Michael Caine seems to be fairly, fairly even keeled. But that's
I understand. He enjoys his brandy and his cigars, and I think to this day,
Who doesn't?
Well, Anthony Hopkins not anymore, obviously. But
I think the first film I ever saw with Michael Caine was probably Dressed to Kill. And
honest to God, I couldn't even remember the first movie I saw Michael Caine in, but
Yeah.
he's an incredible actor.
yeah,
For
he's
me,
a
it
great
was
actor.
the Muppets Christmas Carol where he played Scrooge.
You don't even see the good Muppet. The greatest movie is the Muppet movie.
That's exactly.
It's
Him and Rizzo the Rat.
He's not in the Muppet movie.
Who's not in the Muppet movie?
Rizzo the Rat.
Yes, he is in. Rizzo the Rat is absolutely in the Scrooge Muppet Christmas Carol.
Now I'm talking about the Muppet movie. I don't recognize.
Which sadly has not made any of our lists. Okay, up next is Lewis's list.
Which is, I can completely throw out the window now because it doesn't. These are all things you'd see on the Criterion Channel.
Yeah, but you know what? Can I tell you something? These are all things that people might not necessarily. Again, people from film school and people that are above the age of a certain age are watching the Criterion Channel, right? AFI, remember when the books used to come out? It used to be really cool to read. You'd be excited to see what the top 100 were, what the actors' movies. I don't think with this younger generation, they're as inquisitive as our generation was because we had to find things.
Right, but AFI milked it. They went from 100 best villains, 100 funniest comedies to like 100 best villainous laughs.
Right, they
100 best cackles.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. But I think there's a certain inquisitiveness that's been lost with this generation simply because they don't have to be in search of certain things. So I think your list is very good. Let's get to the long goodbye.
I'm so obsessed with it that I went so far as to call the real estate agent who had the listing for the property, and where Elliot Gould's character, Philip Marlowe, lives, which is in the Hollywood Heights section of Los Angeles.
Where you were on vacation.
Right, that vacation I took, and I am Facebook friends with and have exchanged emails with the current owner of the fourplex. Carl K. was the architect. I almost rented the apartment that was Gould's before the building was listed. And I could go on and on. Carl K., the architect.
I love how you haven't mentioned anything about the movie.
His son, Milano, his son, Milano K., is mentioned in, as a character in one of Michael Connelly's novels. And Connelly lived in the Elliot Gould apartment and later did a Q&A with Elliot Gould on stage and told Elliot Gould, I lived in the apartment. And they filmed illegally, and I say that in quotes, a short of that Connelly book. And they had it was the first time they put somebody on film playing Harry Bosch.
So the long goodbye was Michael Connelly.
No, it was Raymond Chandler.
Okay.
It was Robert Altman's modern day interpretation of Philip Marlowe.
I'm just
How many versions of that book, or excuse me, how many versions of that movie have there been?
Only one version of The Long
I
Goodbye.
know what
There
you're
are
talking
many
about, Ben. I
film
know why you're
versions
confused because
of
there's
Marlowe.
another movie with a very similar name. I think Gina Davis was in a movie with a very same.
Oh, you're thinking of The Long Kiss Goodnight, I
Right.
think.
With Sam Jackson, which has
Mhm.
absolutely nothing to do with Raymond Chandler, Philip Marlowe, or Los Angeles. But the
You
actors,
bring up Harry Bosch.
Bogart played Marlowe.
Okay.
Mitchum played Marlowe.
Right.
Yes.
James Garner played
Okay.
Marlowe.
James Garner will never be forgotten, but Robert Mitchum's one of those actors that somehow has managed, because he pissed a lot of people the wrong way. The comments of his were misconstrued, but I think he's one of those actors that's fallen through the cracks of forgottenness.
Well, our friend's father's first film, I believe, was with Robert Mitchum. He tells the story about Mitchum saying, "They say I don't know my lines, and it's not true. I'm just too drunk to remember them."
He was an incredible actor. Good choice. Next up, one of my favorite movies, one of the most underrated movies. Not really sure how. This is the case of movies that studios don't know how to promote, because it was an incredible movie, The Candidate.
Michael Ritchie, who also did Bad News Bears, Downhill Racer, with the other, or Downhill Skier, Downhill Racer, I believe, that he also did with Redford. And talk about a screenwriter, the novelist James Salter, born James Horowitz, went to West Point and then reinvented himself after he left the military because he chose to write, and he became James Salter. Great film with two of my favorite actors, the late Alan Garfield, and as I told you before, Michael Lerner, who's been in so many things.
And I told you I bumped into his brother one time.
Right.
I think him or his brother at the Pavilions, because they look exactly alike. And I said, "I love your work." And
I said, well, Michael Lerner being one of those people that I think is instantly recognizable, but at the same time, you can't remember anything he was in.
Yeah.
Which is what happened to me when I was walking on 3rd across from Cedars, having just left my psychiatrist appointment. It was drizzling. I saw him. I was approaching, and I just said, "The best," because I couldn't think of a movie. And he patted me on the shoulder.
I know exactly what you're saying. By the way, I got The Candidate confused. Wasn't there another movie called The Candidate?
You think of The Contender.
Contender. My bad. That was the movie.
About Rod Laurie before, who defriended me. Yeah. That's Jeff Bridges, Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman and
the woman I can never remember her name.
Right. And
Kristen Slater.
She played Anthony Hopkins' wife. She played Pat Nixon in Nixon.
It was and she was in Manhunter.
Joan whatever. That's her name.
Okay, next up, you're a big Robert Altman fan.
Love Altman. Love Altman.
I'm noticing Altman's through this list.
Nashville is just on so many levels about politics, the hierarchies of fame, music.
So from that you had Jeff Bridges, right?
He's not no.
Never seen it.
Sybil Shepherd?
Nashville also has Alan Garfield.
What about Sybil Shepherd?
That's The Last Picture Show with Jeff Bridges.
Okay, that's what movie I'm getting confused with. Okay.
And Timothy Bottom's
brother.
No, Timothy Bottoms.
Timothy Bottoms. But go
Timothy Bottoms had a brother. No, Timothy Bottoms had a brother who has since passed away, who was in something.
Okay, but
he's in Apocalypse Now. He's in Apocalypse
Now. Nashville. Who starred?
It's ensemble. You've also got Jeff Goldblum, doesn't speak in the movie. You've got Ned Beatty, Lily Tomlin. They play husband and wife. Alan Garfield. He was, and the actor whose name escapes me, he was in so many things like Michael Lerner. Keenan Wynn. That's who it is. Shelley Duvall.
Ooh, great actress.
The little short guy who was in everything, including The Long Goodbye. I'm doing him justice. The little short guy who was in The Long Goodbye, who slapped Sterling Hayden across the face and said, "Write the check, Roger."
Ben and I are not as familiar with this movie as you are. Okay, let's get to your next movie, Lewis.
which is
Shampoo.
just a perfect film. And when I saw Robert Towne coming out of a candy shop, which is no longer around, which was owned and run by a mother and her two daughters. They've all since passed away, and the two daughters died within a year or less of each other. One looked like Paul Sorvino, the other was a dead ringer for B. Arthur, and he was coming out of this thing, and he looked like an animated corpse. The only thing missing was...
I'm looking at this movie. It didn't get the highest reviews, but it's a favorite.
Perfect film.
Right.
Jack Gordon, Hal Ashby.
No. You're right. I'm saying I'm looking at the actors. They're amazing. Julie Christie, Lee Grant,
won the Oscar for Best
Goldie Hawn.
What makes it the perfect movie?
It is
music by Paul Simon.
And it's such and the Paul Simon music is perfect for what it is, and it was Carrie Fisher's film debut,
and it was directed by Hal Ashby, but it still has got rotten reviews. But that's a good question.
What makes
how it's got rotten reviews is beyond me. It is a perfect film, and in many respects, I talked about this with John Voight, to name drop, because he was in another great Hal Ashby film, Coming Home. That this is not so much a Hal Ashby film, though he directed it, because it got hijacked by Beatty, who also produced it. So it wasn't the loose form, friendly, fun set that was typical of Hal Ashby, but it's billed as a comedy.
How old were you when you saw it?
I saw it as an adult.
Okay.
It's billed as a comedy, but it really is, in many respects, a very sad film. But it's a tragedy, but it's so well done, and it's supposed to take place over the course of 3 days. 3 days in the life of George Roundy, the hairdresser, who's modeled after or inspired by, depending on who you ask, unless you ask Beatty or Towne, Jay Sebring, in the lead up to the 1968 election. And it's also got Tony Bill, who directed one of
Okay, let's move on. Heaven Can Wait. Great movie.
Perfect.
Not the Chris Rock version.
No. And Heaven Can Wait is a remake
It's a remake of another Heaven Can Wait, yeah.
Of Here Comes Mr. Jordan, because there was another film also titled Heaven Can Wait, which has nothing to do with this one. But what a cast. Julie Christie, Charles Grodin, Diane Cannon,
Jack Warden,
Beatty, Buck Henry,
Warren Beatty,
James Mason. There's a whole story about the poster and Robert Evans and the cost to airbrush the poster, allegedly.
How old were you when you first saw that?
I saw that in the theater. Mr. Mr. Pendleton.
I'm just curious how old you were when you saw that.
I was a baby. I wasn't supposed to be there.
So I got to tell you,
I'm not supposed to be here, but you are here.
I love that movie, and it's one of my favorite movies. I love that.
I'm Joe Pendleton. This is just a body they found.
But I wonder, sometimes with age, like the older you get, like when I was younger, I saw The Natural. I didn't love it as the older I got.
I love this movie since the day I saw it, and I introduced it to my daughter when she was 5, and to this day, I can quote it to her. I'll say, Mr. Pendleton loves it. We watched it more than once, and I'll say to her, I'm not supposed to be here, but you are. And I say, Joe, and she says, this is not a dream.
Ben, you've seen it?
Yes, but only once, and I think on cable not long after it was in the theater, so probably 40 years ago.
Again.
With a cameo by our friend Vincent Gardenia.
That's right. That's right.
What was Mr. Farnsworth doing the last time you saw him? Buying Haiti. Excuse me? And Grodin says, The Island.
Okay. last but definitely not least, we're going back to your this is your first Woody Allen. So play it again, Sam.
Which he doesn't really claim as his own because it was directed by Herb Ross and was shot in San Francisco. And yet it's just a great, great, great movie.
And we were talking about an actor in it that will be forgotten. Tony Roberts, right, who is
in every scene. This is what dates it, because this is before cell phones and beepers. In every scene, because he's an important businessman, the camera will cut to him on a phone saying, and looking at his watch, for the next 5 minutes, I'll be at, and he reads out the phone number. And then he's at a nightclub and you see him on a payphone. For the next 10 minutes, I'll be at, he does that in any scene he's in.
Amazing character actor, just an amazing character actor. And somebody said this to me, but I think there's like a lot of character actors that don't work as much as they do because they're too intimidating to not just the lead, but to the second lead and the third lead, because they eat up so much of every scene they're in.
Well, this guy's filmography is just incredible.
And that's actually what I want to, because one of the next shows I want to do is because Ben had brought up the name J.T. Walsh.
Yeah.
Oh,
And J.T. Walsh, at any scene he was in, he stole.
one word, because my wife refuses to see the movie because of the premise, which scares the crap out of her. And I saw it in the theater. Breakdown.
I would say breakdown, yeah. But
Yes.
even that scene, even that one scene in the car, the couple scenes he had in A Few Good Men, you know.
Forget about this. His best scene, I would say, in his body of work, it's so good.
Narrow
I
Margin.
have said, when I've had my different moods, my highs and lows, I said, I'm JT Walsh in The Grifters.
Oh my God. Very good movie. That could be on one of the lists, but The Grifters was an incredibly good movie.
When he opens that door to tempt fate that's empty, and he says, I've got all this computer equipment, right?
But he's the
Pass this
perfect
door.
example of an actor that is in a movie for 5 minutes, but every scene he's in, he steals it.
You know who gave him props? Jack Nicholson. When Nicholson won the Oscar for As Good as It Gets, he said some kind words about J.T. Walsh, who had recently passed away.
Okay, good list. Very good list. Let's get to producer girlfriend's list because she worked extremely hard on it. So, and let's not make fun like I did because I got in trouble.
He did
Producer
make fun of
girlfriend.
my list.
We
Okay.
have Labyrinth.
So I'm gonna
Wait,
start
what
off
did you
with,
call it? He called it Labyrinth.
I know.
Labyrinth. Labyrinth.
Your
Labyrinth.
boyfriend just not only had multiple strokes, but he went full Ebonics.
Labyrinth. Okay.
Labyrinth.
So I love this movie. And it combines
How
three
do
of
you
my
pronounce it, by the way?
Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
you got
it combines three of my favorite things, which are David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly, who is my ultimate girl crush,
Mine too.
and Jim Henson.
Yeah.
So as you can probably tell from me bringing up the Michael Caine and the Muppet movie, I love the Muppets. I love Fraggle Rock. That would be on my don't forget list.
They're
But
bringing it
Labyrinth,
back.
I know. I'm stoked. I'm excited. So, but Labyrinth is, I feel a movie like if I had a kid, I would make sure they watched as much as I did when I was
Well,
a
let
kid.
me tell you this. Labyrinth was talking some crap to me earlier, and I said, you better watch yourself.
Because you got
Okay.
the power of hoodoo, you do, voodoo.
You better recognize.
Okay. Next. Moving on.
My
Oh,
next
God.
pick is Dr. Zhivago, which is David Lean. Also a Julie Christie movie.
Yes.
Excellent.
Omar Sharif.
Excellent.
This movie, in my opinion, is the perfect distillation of a very good book. And I think that it is just a phenomenal
Who's
picture.
starring it?
It was Omar Sharif
Oh, great
Julie
actor.
Christie.
and Julie Christie.
Yeah.
And it's directed by David Lean.
Okay.
So
Next up, we have. You see, we had a bit of a debate about this because Lewis being the father. No, Ben was actually too. So Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Saw it in the theater.
Would you have any issues showing your daughter or your children this movie?
No.
No.
No, because of Pee-wee's.
Pee-wee?
Yeah.
I saw Pee-wee when Pee-wee was funny. I was in the 3rd grade, and HBO showed him performing. They had taped a live performance from, I think maybe the Whatever comedy club. What's the comedy club on Melrose?
Improv.
Yeah. And that's where I was introduced to Zombie.
Okay, so
Like a
let's
high-
get back
like a
to
high
Pee-wee's
cut.
Big Adventure. Fantastic movie. I hope kids for generations are watching Pee-wee's Playhouse.
But I also want to add that
Oh, Tim Burton.
it's Tim Burton,
Yeah.
but also Danny Elfman, who I
Right.
think is fantastic in his scoring.
And we were watching, actually, it's a great story behind that movie because this was Pee Wee Herman's like first big chance. And he went to the execs of Paramount and they wouldn't
Warner Brothers.
they wouldn't let him like pick anybody who was directing. He gave him like a list of 300 names and they said no to everybody. And so he said that he kept on, he went to Shelley Duvall at a party. And
Right.
he said, who do you, they're not letting me, she said one name. She goes, Tim Burton, right? So he goes to Paramount and he says, I want Tim Burton to direct it. And they're like thinking in their head, there's no way Tim Burton is going to direct your movie. And he got the script and he directed it.
He had a big falling out later, Pee Wee and Phil Hartman. Because Phil Hartman,
Oh, really?
oh yeah, Phil Hartman was part of that act, the one from the Improv, and he also played her. He was Captain Carl.
Captain Carl. That's right. And he's got a writing credit on the movie too. You know, this is the 35th anniversary of the movie, and before the world got closed down, Paul Rubens was going around touring with the film and showing the movie and then doing, telling stories about it. And they did a screening in LA. I was supposed to go and I couldn't make it.
I would have gone to that in a heartbeat.
I would have gone to that too.
I was really looking forward to it. I think I couldn't make it because I think it was snowing.
But we were watching an interview with him on YouTube, and if you could find it, it's an incredible interview. And one of the things that made it incredible is he took one question and it made it like it was a 40-minute answer. It was just something like we'd enjoy. Like it was sort of like this non-linear answer of how everything was created. But and then he had, he actually has had some dramatic roles. He was in The Blacklist, if you've watched The Blacklist, and he was Keach. He was good. Okay.
Blow.
Yes, Lewis.
He was in Blow.
He was in Blow too, right?
By the way, now I realize who you are. You're dressed as a drug dealing cosplayer.
A drug dealing what?
Cosplayer.
What
you don't know what cosplaying is?
No.
He knows.
No, I really don't. I really don't.
So people like to dress up in elaborate costumes, like Disney princesses or comic book characters.
I didn't know. I thought there was a different name for people that dressed in the animal suits.
Those are furries.
Furries.
Cosplayers.
Which sort of Lewis looks like a little furry.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to your next one. The Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
This is a French film from 2007. And if you don't know about it, the first half of the film actually is the point of view of a man who has a stroke.
Oh,
and
very uplifting.
Very uplifting. But it's beautifully shot. It's one of the few films that Janusz Kaminski has not shot for Steven Spielberg, but I had heard that Spielberg gave him permission to go shoot it. And it's a fantastic film that I think everyone should watch because it's
what is it about? I've not seen it. What's it about?
It's about a man who has a stroke and he wakes up and realizes that he can't communicate with anyone and he's paralyzed.
Like Judah.
It's sort of pretty much.
Tell me about this Labyrinth. Labyrinth. It's number one. It's a basketball movie?
No, I thought you said Labris.
Yeah. Labris. He did everything to keep his head.
And it was done by Julian Schnabel. That's funny, actually. Okay, let's get to your next one. State and Maine.
David Mamet.
Yes, Baldwin. David Mamet. I saw it in the theater.
It's the perfect movie of a big time film coming to a quaint little village or a quaint little town, and all that ensues, and it's just fantastic.
Only problem with the movie, and it's got Alec Baldwin, and it's good, is that it requires incredible suspension of disbelief to believe that Sarah Jessica Parker is one, attractive, and two, so attractive that people want to see her naked, and she has a codicil in her contract that forbids nude scenes, which the real life Sarah Jessica Parker did as well. Why anybody, but for about 90 days in 1989, would have wanted to see Sarah Jessica Parker partially or entirely nude is beyond me. So that's the biggest flaw with the movie.
Part of me is thinking you actually really did want to see her naked and are just
I told you, for about 90 days during the year 1989.
Right. She's not.
What was
Phoebe
happening
Cates.
during those 90 days that made you change your mind?
She's not Phoebe Cates.
No, she had a window. It was 90 days. And now she's a man.
She's not Phoebe Cates.
Phoebe Cates does nothing for me.
But I didn't mention that movie because I do think that movie will live on and on and on and on.
I hope so.
No, I'm talking about Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh,
That's another example, by the way, of Cameron Crowe, and he did the same thing with Almost Famous. It could have been so much better.
He didn't direct it; he wrote it.
Regardless, it could have been so much better. I know Amy
I loved
Heckerling.
Almost Famous. I thought Almost Famous was for me it was.
I thought Almost Famous was almost good.
Yeah, I thought it was almost a perfect movie because Frances McDormand played the most amazing mother I've ever seen in that movie.
She's a much better mother as a character in a much better film, and that's Laurel Canyon.
Great movie. Okay, I guess last but not least. Okay, just so to preface it, my movies aren't necessarily. I was a kid, so I saw them when I was a kid. Which was the first one was My Bodyguard.
Great. We talked about this.
Starring a lookalike to Lewis at a certain
At a certain age, I did look like Linderman.
Adam Baldwin, Martin Mull, Ruth Gordon.
And you've got two paper chase people. You've got Hausman.
Yeah, that's right.
Who Ruth Gordon hits on at the hotel bar. Yeah. And you've got the guy that Dillon. Well, that's Matt Dillon's film debut, but you've got the other person, the other manager of the hotel who plays Mole's like obsequious colleague. He plays a student in The Paper Chase who, when called on by Hausman, says, "I have a photographic memory," and Hausman rolls his eyes and calls it someone else.
I'm surprised you didn't put that on the list, by the way, because that's a
Paper Chase. Paper Chase is a great film. I own the novel too.
Okay, this next one.
Wait! I have a question because nobody actually mentioned, the kid who needed the
Chris Makepeace.
Whatever happened to him?
Nothing.
We spoke about this. He's in his other. So there's four to Americans because he's a Canadian. 4. You spell that F-O-U-R, Judah. Not faux. So he's in 4 great movies. My Bodyguard.
Yeah.
Meatballs.
Of course.
A horrendously excellent movie with Lee Majors, I think called The Last Race.
Okay.
And the HBO movie, because this is in the early years of HBO, The Terry Fox Story. He plays Terry Fox's brother.
Okay. You missed a fifth. You missed a fifth, which is a TV movie, which is one of the greatest TV movies I've ever seen in my life. Mazes and Monsters.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Somewhere. You never saw Mazes and Monsters?
I've never seen it either.
It features a very young Tom Hanks, and it's about the dangers of playing Dungeons and Dragons, and Tom Hanks goes insane. It's great.
And the actor...
Again, I smell a remake.
You could never do it justice. I've got it. It is so good. I've got it on video somewhere. I think I have it on DVD somewhere.
So next up, we have Cloak and Dagger, one of my favorite childhood movies. And I also put that in the list because it stars Dabney Coleman, one of the most forgotten character actors of all time.
I'm sorry that it was auto-corrected to Danny.
That's okay. It's Dabney Coleman, but
add insult to injury.
But have you guys seen Cloak and Dagger?
Yes.
Yes.
It's got and they also
they're
playing in the movie. They're playing. I'm not looking this up. They're playing a Cloak and Dagger video game on the Atari 5600.
Yes, with John Forsythe, William Forsythe, the actor, and Michael, the guy we can't think of, who's in every Woody Allen movie. Who I looked up his name and I can't remember it. Michael Murphy. Okay, next up, the Kane Mutiny.
Okay, hold on. I just want to point something out. Did you just refer to Dabney Coleman in the past tense? Because he's still alive.
Yeah, I refer to people a lot in the past tense that don't do current things.
The Last Chase.
It doesn't mean I think they're dead. It just, last night we were
He's
watching.
still working.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
I have to read this to you. It's very quick. In a future United States, the only transport available to an individual is public transportation, predicated on an assertion that the oil has run out. An increasingly totalitarian central government has ordered all personal vehicles be impounded by law. One man, a former race car driver, yearns again for his ability to choose his own roads and destinies. He reassembles his race car hidden from confiscation and sets out for, quote unquote, free California.
What movie is this?
The Last Chase, not The Last Race. That's the Chris Makepeace.
Oh, thank you for that. Next, I forget about the Kane Mutiny, one of the most fantastic movies of all time, but I hope it stays relevant. I mean, Fred McMurray, Humphrey Bogart.
McMurray, cheapest man in Hollywood.
Yes, but one of the richest men in Hollywood.
Yes.
Supposedly, he bagged his lunches every day.
Hard-boiled egg that would be like 6 days old.
And with every paycheck, he'd buy a piece in the Valley.
Yep.
Next, have either of you guys seen Wise Guys with Danny DeVito and Joe Piscopo?
Don't even start how they want to open a deli.
The first Judeo-Italian deli.
And who's the director?
Oh my God, I know
Brian De Palma.
And it was with Lou Albano playing Frankie the Fixer. And Ben, if you haven't seen this comedy, Lewis, it's worth it to see this comedy, right?
When one of the two is ever in doubt, the other paints a verbal picture of the deli they're going to open, telling him about the knishes,
the cannolis, the knishes and the cannolis. It was great. Ben, I beg of you to see this comedy. It's I don't know. It got lost in the thing, but it's got Joe Piscopo in it.
This is like going to a studio for a pitch meeting. And you remove the cover, the sterling silver cover on top of this tray, and there is nothing but an enormous load of shit. And the response is Brian De Palma. Let's get the best. Let's get the best. What'd they bring you? They brought me a steaming, bloody coil of corn-studded shit. And what did you do? Well, I called De Palma. It's going to be fucking art. It's going to be art.
And it was for me. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's like coming in saying, hey, this is a movie about a serial killer who murders Holocaust survivors who are hookers.
Let's get Chris.
Let's get Hitchcock. Somebody get Hitch on the phone. Hitch, I'm calling from Beverly Hills. This is very expensive. I got a property for you. Done. We're going to get David Niven. Okay. We're going to get Olivier.
Ben, don't listen to Lewis. Go watch the movie.
It's great. It is great. But the fact that they got De Palma to do this.
Brian De Palma is one of the most uneven directors of all time.
Yeah, but you go from Blowout, Dress to Kill, and then you say DeVito and Joe Piscopo. What is this about again? They're going to open a deli?
Yeah, this is my Daniel Day-Lewis issue, right? I mean, the producer girlfriend loves Daniel Day-Lewis, and I like a lot of his early stuff, but I wish he would have just done one comedy. You know, wish he would have done one movie where he wasn't Daniel Day-Lewis.
Right.
Anyways, let's get to one of my next favorite comedies of all time, The In-Laws. Peter Falk, Alan Arkin.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to name drop. I'm going to name drop my acquaintance, but we know each other in the real world. Doug McIntyre, 790 KBC.
Yeah, great talk show host.
His wife is
the actress
Penny Pfizer, who has played more Jews than Jews.
And it's not Jewish.
No, and she also plays the bride in The Frisco Kid.
And she's in the in-laws.
Oh, that's another.
Yes, she plays the bride.
Pizer had a really good run of a good run of movies.
You want to talk about a good run? You know what her film debut was? All the President's Men.
That's a pretty darn good run. Okay, next screen. We'll do this quickly. Bang the Drum Slowly.
Great film.
Very good film.
Either of you seen that?
Yes,
Ben, you've seen
Mira.
it? Yeah,
Yes.
Very uplifting.
Yes, yeah, very uplifting. Yes.
The Days of Wine and Roses, best.
Oh, another one. Oh my God! What is this? Is this for the suicide night?
No, but these are movies that people should see. Lee Remick.
Yeah, before they blow their brains out, they should
Okay.
see these movies.
Okay.
Oh, you're terminal? You're ending it tonight? Give yourself 9 hours.
You know what? Can I tell you something?
Before you pull the trigger.
Lewis, I want to be honest with you. There are certain people who wouldn't mind seeing my movie list before. I'm not going to mention who.
The Days of Wine and Roses is enough to just that'll drive you to drink.
But you'd agree, great movie.
Yes, but you have to be in a certain mood to see it.
Yes. Okay. A Bronx Tale.
Now you just can't leave.
And that scene where just the greatest lesson of the girl opening up the door for the guy, and just one of my favorite movies.
Was that fight really over a parking space? No.
And the little Joe Pesci role at the end. The Killing Fields, another.
Oh, this is great. This is forget Weekend at Bernie's. This is Night with Ben. I mean,
Okay,
Judas Suicide List. Hospice in conjunction with the Motion Picture Academy of Arts and Sciences.
These would be perfect movies to watch in Ben's office.
Yes,
okay. The list of movies, the perfect movies to see in Ben's office. Okay, I want to save the next one for last because I want that to lead into our next show. But no, the next two. But the original Ocean's 11, I know it's garbage, but it's one of my favorite.
Speaking of garbage, they have Sammy Davis Jr. playing a garbage man, and nobody said that might be problematic.
The odds are always with the house. The house.
I mean, how cool was Cesar Romero in that movie? If you're a 14 or 10-year-old kid and or Peter Lawford, just the whole Rat Pack, just one of my favorite movies. I idolized the Rat Pack. I was in love with the Rat Pack. 12 Angry Men, which you don't see enough of. Lewis, name the actors in 12 Angry Men.
So I'm going to go through. I can't name them all by name.
I'm going to do this.
Hold on. I'm going to go.
I just want to set this up because we're running out of time. So for
Jack Klugman, Ed Begley,
hear me out. No,
Jack Warden, Henry Fonda, Lee J. Cobb.
Yes, but
the guy from 10. Among other things.
And if you add the Dirty Dozen and 12 Angry Men, you probably put together the greatest list of character actors / leading men of all time.
Yeah. Now, in that outfit, how many times did you go before a judge or a jury?
This one?
Yeah.
One.
Labyrinth told me I need representation.
But would you agree that those two movies put together, the only problem is there's not, what would be a good equivalent that we could discuss character actor women? Oh, Fried Green Tomatoes. I'm surprised producer girlfriend didn't put that on the list because she brought up Olympia Dukakis, one of the great actresses who nobody brings up anymore. I don't even know if she's alive.
She had a run and that was it.
Yeah. But she's a fine actress.
Yeah, Steel Magnolias, Mr. Holland's Opus.
Don't start. Ben and I know something about Mr. Holland's Opus.
Oh,
we'll share off air.
Okay.
She's still alive.
Let it not be anything anti-Richard Dreyfuss.
No. It has to do with someone who thinks he's a film critic.
I'd love to hear it off air, but
she's still working.
Every time, who is?
Olympia Dukakis.
What's her last picture?
Her last.
One from the library.
Well, her last thing completed but not released, I guess, is something called Broken Links. But she's been doing a lot of TV. It looks like.
Oh,
is she like
good for her?
Tales of the City. She had a regular spot on Tales.
She
of the
was
City.
on that.
What year was that, Ben?
Last year.
And wasn't she on that? The Bored to Death. I think she was on, which was a great series.
Oh yeah, that was a really good show. Yeah, yeah.
So apparently, here's the funny thing. I just realized this about myself. If I stop watching you or listening to you, I think you're dead.
Yeah, I guess so. Very Hollywood of you.
I can, you know, this is the first time I can see the door at Ben's compound at Ruby Ridge. You can see the door. I don't think he had a door last time.
That's what I want to discuss next time. Are we in agreement? Female actors that should be remembered.
Sure.
Okay. Lewis,
remember the ladies.
Yes.
Are you going to try?
And here's a movie I'm surprised wasn't on your list. 2 films that weren't on your list, Judah.
Yes.
Hot Stuff and Fatso.
I've never seen Fatso.
Oh my God. This film was made for a 5-year-old, 60-year-old Judah.
Which is you too.
Yeah, but more you.
No. Lewis,
like if you were 5, they still had wagons selling pickles.
You're easily able to peg me because you are me, Lewis.
Yeah, but I'm the suburban version. I couldn't go outside to the man with the wheelbarrow and the pickles.
By the way, neither could I, but I did when I went into the city. And let me tell you something to end this. There is no greater joy in the world than buying a pickle out of a barrel.
I'm sure.
Have neither of you ever done that?
No, I'm from the I was born in the late 20th century.
What do you mean? They had that in the 80s. They still had pickles in barrels.
But not on streets.
Not on streets.
In the Lower East Side in New York.
Yeah, was this the same time you went to Genco Olive Oil Company and made a deal with them about the rent?
Just for the record, I'm not sure if I actually ever saw it or a movie isn't getting ingrained into my head where I imagined myself buying a pickle out of a barrel.
Right, where you went to see Amy Irving about a possible arranged marriage.
That's what's the Amy Irving reference? Because it's
Crossing Delancey.
Crossing Delancey, very good movie.
Who, by the way, this was the biggest shock for me, is not Jewish.
Perfect example. No,
she's not Jewish.
Who was she married to? Steven
Spielberg.
Yeah.
Didn't she convert, or was that Kate?
No, that was Kate Capshaw. She meant every word. But Amy Irving is half Jewish, but she was raised.
You see, but I get confused between Amy Irving and Barbara Hershey. Because I was about to say Amy Irving was great.
No. If you want to talk about the hottest half Jews, we'll start with.
Okay. Well, let's save that for next time because we're running out of time, and we are.
No. Scarlett Johansson, then Jennifer.
By the way, Scarlett Johansson's not half a Jew; she's a full Jew.
Well, so is Jennifer Connelly. Your mother's Jewish.
So is Jennifer Connelly.
But do you think they'd look like Jennifer Connelly or Scarlett Johansson if they were 100%?
Well, Gal Gadot is pretty damn
does nothing for me.
Well, we don't. To be honest with you, Lewis, I don't want to know what does it for you.
I'll tell you, Martin Boston.
Oh God! Oh my God!
Anywho, managing editor.
You definitely have an autographed photo of red buttons.
Let's thank our amazing anonymous producer, who remain anonymous, of course. Lewis Fine, when he was younger, who looked like Adam Baldwin, and as he's older, looks like a
John Travolta and Orson Welles.
And go to American Greatness, and you could find us at three Esoterics, and we will be on iTunes.
Don't try to spell it.
So you could just download it. And thank you again for listening and watching.
Thank you.